Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera. Here we are with episode 127 of Behind the Camera. As always, before we get into today's show, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can follow me on all social media using the link in the description, which will take you to all platforms, and also includes the link to my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. You can get this in paperback, ebook, and for free on Kindle Unlimited. But now, getting into today's conversation. If you love horror movies, this episode is for you. My guest today is horror content creator Haunteire. We talk what it's like finding your feet as a creator, especially in a somewhat divisive niche like horror, building a community of like-minded people, and how with consistency you can achieve some incredible things that all started with one simple idea. For me, I found this conversation to be an amazing example of the fact that sometimes when you have a hobby or interest, you think that you're the only one who cares about it and that you have nobody to share it with, until you stumble upon communities like Erin's. What she's built around horror, TikTok, and the Horror-ble Monday Movie Club is just proof that there's always people out there who get it. You just haven't found them yet. But now, here's the interview. I have to say, it is a privilege to have Northern Ireland's #1 graveyard influencer on Behind the Camera. Haunteire, welcome to Behind the Camera.
Hello.
Sorry, you knew I was going to throw that in.
I knew you were going to do that.
You did. But yeah, it is a pleasure to have you on Behind the Camera. Thank you for taking the time to have this conversation. How's it going?
Okay, thank you for having me. Busy week, but yeah, I'm always happy to chat to my friend.
How nice. But yeah, very, very busy, as has been really 2026 for you. But you know, we'll get into this. But let's go back to the very beginning. Let's talk about Haunteire or Haunteire, however it's people like to say it. I know you like to caveat that every time it's brought up, but
Yep.
let's go back to the very beginning and talk us through like what your content creation journey's been like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so May last year is when I started TikTok then. So I initially started Haunteire, which was like a paranormal themed name that I came up with when I've always been into the paranormal since I was a kid growing up. But basically it's Haunt and Era, which is Ireland together. And it was a name in a magazine that I had to make for a project in school. So it always sort of stuck with me. I was like, that's cool if I ever need to use it. So when I was making the TikTok, I was like, oh, sure, we'll just use that. And yeah, a few months doing full paranormal stuff, and then I gravitated towards all my interests, which was graveyard history, graveyard restoration, and now a lot of horror movie content as well.
Yeah, like it's been sort of quite the change over, like, well, I can only really sort of say from like around December, January, like that was the first time that we'd met. But you kind of switched from paranormal, or sort of really kind of transitioned out of paranormal to go into horror movies, at least is the main thing with Horror-ble Monday Movie Club. So yeah, let's talk about that. How did that start out?
So basically, when I was kind of in a lull with the paranormal, I didn't really, personally, I just didn't like how paranormal is perceived online and how fake a lot of it is. And I just didn't feel genuine creating content or generating content, should I say, on something that I wasn't fully passionate about, like faking or whatever you kind of have to do to get people on board in that industry. So I was like kind of a bit down in the dumps about everything. I was like, well, I've always loved horror movies, and I just started doing horror chats on like TikTok Live just to kind of fill in a bit of time. And one of my friends who was in a paranormal team in England was like, why don't you like make a club out of this? And I was like, what you know what? That's not a bad idea. Like setting like a watch list. So it became sort of like the way a book club would be, where you kind of have a reading list, but this was a watch list for the week. And then if they want people join in, they join in. If they don't, they don't. If I've already seen them, even better. You just get random people scrolling across that might want to talk about the movie. So yeah, it's just sort of spanned from there.
Yeah, and it's definitely been like really successful and definitely kind of paramount to the growth that you've had, because I remember would have been around the first time that you did it or when you started it. A lot of people were kind of really surprised you'd never seen Dog Soldiers, and I mean, from my perspective, that seems to be where it started. But was it Dog Soldiers, or was it kind of obviously with the influence of your friend as well? But was that like kind of the main film that people had sort of talked about to sort of be like, okay, this is a good starting point?
Yeah, Dog Soldiers was the big. That was like everyone used to come in and say their favorite movie was Dog Soldiers. It was just like recurrent thing. I was like, what is this? Like, it can't be that good. And I ate my words, like if I did. But the Weapons was a big one as well. So Weapons was obviously out last year, and all year I just kept hearing mixed things. And I was really out of the loop with cinema last year. I don't know why. I just wasn't doing other things. Obviously preoccupied with paranormal. Um, and yeah, Weapons was the one that was really dividing people. So I need to see this myself. So I think the first week that I did the movie club, we set Weapons, and The Hills Have Eyes was one I'd never seen. So I did the original Hills Have Eyes as well. And I'm a big Hills Have Eyes fan.
But I think that's kind of a good thing as well, because I seen on a post that you did recently that you talk about like the Horror-ble Monday Movie Club gives you like that kind of accountability. Like, you're really kind of living out your hobby of, you're not just saying that you like these films, you're actually going out watching them and making your own kind of opinions on them. So how do you pick the movies per week? Do you have like the X number of weeks planned out, or is it a case of just kind of going with what you might not have seen and kind of wing it a bit?
Yeah, so initially it was just kind of I used to write down movies when people were saying what their favorites were. And I just made these lists, and then I started updating my letterbox watch list. So initially I just started getting all popular ones that I hadn't seen. And then now it's kind of a bit more formulated. We're kind of have themed weeks. If there's like, for example, next week, the new Insidious is out, and Jacob Chase is directing it, and he has a feature debut that I haven't seen, so I may as well watch his first movie before we see his next attempt, basically. So there sometimes be like that, like Eli Roth week. Unfortunately, we did as well. That was two of Eli Roth's movies before Ice Cream Man came out. So I just try to tie it in with kind of what's going on, but also ticking off kind of those cult classics that for some reason I still haven't seen.
Yeah, but then I think as well, like, with what you're doing, you're kind of widening the scope for maybe like the casual viewer, or people who are kind of new to watching horror and kind of earlier fans, and really kind of showcasing what is out there rather than just the big kind of franchises. Like, I know we talked about Insidious there, but other things that people might not have, like a lot of 70s, 80s, 90s horror that kind of seems to just gone on the radar and kind of almost been forgotten. It's like you're kind of bringing that back. And speaking of Insidious, you have your second private screening coming up next week for the new Insidious movie, and you did just recently do Evil Dead Burn. And let's talk about the screening. So, like, how are you feeling this time ahead of this private screening compared to the start of one with the Evil Dead?
Better, definitely better. Because I'm sure you can vouch for my nerves last time.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It was, that's normal. You just don't know what to expect. And I think the weird thing is that you're inviting a group of people to see you that you don't know, but they know you from online. So it's that weird kind of odd situation that you'd never face, but that I've brought upon myself. So I just had to get over that initially. But it was fine. It went well. A lot of good feedback. And yeah, I said to everyone, Insidious will be the next one. And I'm glad I did kind of not rush one for Ice Cream Man. That would have been good. but, but
yeah, especially if your trailer reaction for Ice Cream Man was anything to go by.
Oh yeah. What a travesty. I have so many deleted videos on my thoughts on that film that I cannot share with the world, but yeah, the screenings are basically a way to support local cinema in a way too, but keep people involved with what's coming out in a minute. And for a lot of gatekeeper horror fans, kind of encourage them to watch new horror movies that are coming out and not necessarily get caught up in the past, and be more appreciative of all that's still being made.
Yeah, of course. And of course, it's a good way for the people within the community to sort of meet each other, get to know each other. And especially because, like, after the Evil Dead screening, sitting in that bar, just having a lot of people just kind of mingling, meeting. And, like, I know I met a lot of people the first time. So it was just nice. And do you kind of see the private screenings kind of growing, or would you kind of maybe keep it a certain size for now? And what's your sort of plans going forward for that?
Yeah, I think I actually quite like the size of that room. You know, the one.
Oh, it was good.
That screen is in. It's a brilliant location. The cinema have been really cooperative, and there's activities in that location that are beneficial to people that like this sort of thing. So, for example, after the Insidious screening, there is the opportunity to go to the arcade. Insert name of arcade. There's an arcade in Cityside, but they're gratefully given a discounted rate of like £5 an hour for anyone that wants to come
Oh,
down and
class.
play in the arcade after the screening. So
Mm.
that's kind of another social layer to it. And then obviously going to Gallagher's and chatting afterwards is something that we can still do too. That's why I went with the earlier time as well, to kind of make it more of a social thing afterwards.
Yeah, and that's even better as well, because you're able to kind of, well, more people are now kind of like learning who you are and what it is you're about, like especially local businesses, and that's like very important. And like compare like now to like 6 months ago, like did you ever kind of foresee this sort of thing happening?
No. Just this week in particular, the couple of opportunities and the things that have happened this week are like 6 months ago during that dark period in November where I didn't know what I was doing. Like, to now is like mad. It's just, I think it's kind of those thing where you can't really see the end goal, but you just have to keep going. And that was
Yeah.
a lot of my support network was kind of like that. Like Josh was obviously constantly sending me, whatever you do, don't stop, just keep going and you'll find out what you're doing. And that, it was so true. Like it just took a random couple of horror chats to kind of change things for me and put me in the right path almost.
Yeah, definitely. Because like once you sort of like landed on Haunteire, because I know you changed Norn Aaron, and like there was a little bit of kind of, you got to change things a wee bit sort of until you like landed on the horror movies. And like I know you mentioned recently that you're going to go back to your graveyard walks as well, but like obviously now the what you're following, what doubled in like 3 or 4 months or something like that, or not even, probably 2 months, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
really, really quick growth from probably about three. I think it was 3K at the start of this year, so it's nearly 10,000. Yeah, nearly at 13.
Yeah,
So
wow. Like
10,000 since the start of this year, which is mental. And for someone that's like in a niche thing, I know there's all different ways people like to measure their social status, but I think for something that that's not everyone's cup of tea, should I say? Um, it's been eye opening that people are really interested in it.
yeah, and I think it's one of those things on social media. Sometimes people like they wait to kind of see something that they resonate with. They wait to see something that somebody else likes, that they think they're the only one, like whether it's niche horror movies or graveyard history, things like that. And I think it kind of comes back to like something that I always think, where like people don't use their voice enough until the right moment comes out. And mentioned graveyard walks as well. That was like a big part of your content sort of in the spring, and then you've stopped over the summer, but you did mention recently that you might go back into it. So let's talk about that side as well. Like what sort of inspired that, and what do you plan to kind of do with that going forward?
Yeah, so I have real interest in like restoration of old graveyards, and I am with Cargin and Killa that are the volunteer group for Friars Bush in Belfast as well. So um Sunday meetups in there, that but again there's kind of a pause and the summer months. I think it's the tropical growth in this in this climate that no matter how hard you work, you come back the next week, your hard work has grown back.
Yeah.
So it's just a very hard time of the year. Well, obviously, it's a good. There's always stuff to maintain, but yeah, I think regards to the restoration, it is harder in the summer months. With the history videos, people are busier. So, for example, for live streams, I always find they don't do as well in the summertime. But spring and autumn, when people are kind of more in the house or it's darker in the evenings and people are kind of sitting scrolling, like I would go in, for example, after work at 4 o'clock, like a 4 to 6 before it gets dark, tends to do really well, and people are more interested to hear what you have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think the first time I ever came across your live, it was in that exact kind of instance, probably. I think what had happened was every so often, it would have come up on the For You page, and eventually I was just like, I recognize his name. Well, you know, there it goes. So I'll say hello. And then kind of went from there. And now, look, you're on my podcast. Yeah.
Hey! How does happen?
Exactly. Yeah. But like it's kind of cool, like with all of that, because like you kind of are really well structured and everything, like, you know, your content around everything, and kind of the summer has kind of allowed you to, you know, incidentally, in a time where more people are outside, people are still watching movies and people are a lot more dialed into. So it's kind of it's kind of nice that that's worked out the way it has. And you know, you obviously kind of are well in tune with your content and the things that you're posting online as well, which has massively helped. And how did you find the right thing to stick in terms of like the types of videos you're posting, like reactions, slideshows, things like that? Like how did that all come about for you?
Yeah, I think that's still stuff I'm figuring out, is the posting side of it. I learned quite early on that I am my most authentic self live streaming, so it doesn't get more real than public FaceTime. So it was finding it ways to translate my actual personality into my posts, because I find when I am trying to go off a script or something, I can just become completely different and not like me. So I find just recently kind of the carousel posts for introducing myself and describing what's going on have done really well. But also vlogs, movie vlog I did for the Eli Roth screening did quite well. And then that it's it's low maintenance, low effort, low effort, because it's just sort of take clips here and there and put my reaction live, and I don't nearly have to think about it. It's cropped together and then I can put it up, but it still feels like me because it was taken in the moment. Yeah. But I think when I try to structure stuff too much, like a lot of horror content creators are chief editors and it can be snappy, 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 but that's just not me. And I could try and do that, but I wouldn't feel like myself. So I think I have to try and keep a bit of a balance between, well, this is me, but I'm mostly a live creator, so come find me here.
Yeah, and you know, that's a very important distinction to make, like being a more so a live creator, because you end of the day, you want people to kind of come into your lives, you want sort of people to see what it is you do in 3 seconds or less, or whatever it may be, because everything has a hook these days, you know, and it's because you know, it's one of those things, because it's really difficult for people to find the content that fits them. And I think sometimes you do find people lose their authenticity as well. And then I think you more or less kind of answered this, but like I was going to say, would you ever move to like long form content, or not move to, but like add in long form content like YouTube, like full vlogs and things? Or do you kind of feel like that might sort of take away from the authenticity? And, you know, especially with, you know, the increased effort and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Time and effort, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have mentioned YouTube, and there is sort of a niceness to it, but I think just with my schedule at the minute, I'm like, do I have enough time to start throwing in YouTube editing in there? But it's not something I'm totally against either. I feel like for in the future, if I go down to like a 4-day week in my job and I had a day where I was like, oh yeah, I could dedicate a bit more to like my other stuff, wouldn't be something I'd say no to. I was actually watching Cody Leach, the horror YouTuber, just downstairs, and he's very chill, and it's like just him sitting like this, and just says how he feels and posts it up. And I think stuff like that would be good for me. So I'm not. There's certain YouTubers that I'm like, yes, I could, and ones I admire, like Ryan Hollander, who I like the research that guy does is phenomenal, and he's so talented. But that just couldn't be me, and so I am just like in awe of some YouTubers because I'm like, that is your bread and butter, like that is what you do. But it's trying to not put myself off YouTube necessarily because I feel like there is still a place for everybody, and a space for everything really on there too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because it's very much when you're looking at sort of content outside of a live setting, you really kind of are trying to find your voice and what type of creator you want to be, because that's kind of where the initial what's the word with like the initial hook for people is, I think, what kind of gets people in, right? So, but obviously when it comes to you being in your live, then that's 100% you, like authentic as anything. And if you've never been in one of Erin's lives, they're funny. They're very funny, very entertaining, very funny. Very some out of pocket things get said.
I was going to say there's been a few quotes that circle around.
There have been. I wish I wrote a few down for the purpose of this.
For right now.
Yeah. I would have. That's it. I would have done something like, is this a Haunteire quote or is this a random quote or something?
Oh, that would have been good.
I would have been. Hindsight's a bitch, isn't
it? Yeah. Next time.
But like, yeah, maybe, yeah. But like, so you've built up like a really, really good community of people. But obviously, when you put yourself out there online and you grow, you can find the sort of not as nice side of things. And like, what was that like kind of for you? Because I know now you have no problem in replying to people's comments and say, oh my god, like some of the things that you've said to people in response is just like your Instagram story yesterday absolutely had me sideways. That was just so funny. But like, what's it like now, sort of like when you kind of get people coming into your comments being dicks and all, and then compare that to like the first time that started happening? Like, how do you sort of dissociate from that and just be like, yeah, whatever?
Yeah, I think I've always been like a little bit not snappy. I've got thicker skin. And my mum will be kind of the same. Don't really take a lot of shit, so I initially entertain it because I feel like live and in the moment you just kind of pan things off a bit more.
Yeah.
Than I would find that when I'm actively getting repetitive comments every day on certain videos, I'm like, right, that annoys me a bit more because like I feel like I'd explain myself, but then I've explained myself to a live audience that is not these people. And I'm kind of like, that can get to me. But I think it's seeing not the fun in it, because it's sometimes not funny, but it's like sort of thinking, well, this person must be unhappy to say what they're saying, and I just kind of view it, and well, like if I can at least give them a laugh in my response to their attempt to annoy me, then I've done my job. That's all I can do. I can either remove it, which I'll do sometimes, or just try and have a laugh with it and give other people a giggle too along the way.
Definitely, because it is funny because you do see people coming into like lives, and like this happens across the board. You see people coming into lives and they're just awful, just mean. And if they get the right response, like not the right response for them, but the right response sort of in a general way, like kill them with kindness, you really kind of see them be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I shouldn't have been a dick. Maybe I should have just been nice. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. They start questioning themselves, and that's just funny, like, but I have to say my favorite comment I've ever seen on anything, and it's regarding the movie club, is this swinging. To me, that will always just be number one. Just feel like there was
Is this
the
swinging?
genuine curiosity out of it. It sounded like it didn't sound like it was there.
My answer to that question. I haven't came across the swings since, believe it or not.
I forgot about that.
I'm just gonna. I've been actively searching for a swing on my whereabouts. Not that I've went to a park by myself to film this. That would be strange. But
you might just have to at this point. Yeah,
I'm doing this. Yeah,
just bite the bullet and just be like, yes, I this is the commitment to the bit here. Like, and what I love about that, right, is it's easily been about 2 or 3 months since that comment. So the fact that literally this person's going to get a notification saying, the fuck, I left that like 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago.
What?
I don't even remember writing this. What's going on?
Honestly, yeah. I think it'll brighten up their week whenever I get around to that.
Oh yeah, after like a period of initial confusion and sort of probably panic that they've done something they don't remember.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But no, it's good that you sort of like bring the fun to it all, like, because like a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this myself, like people will sometimes take it a little bit too seriously. They might kind of not know what it is that they want to do, but they know they want to succeed. And the problem with that is the definition of success is it's such a broad sort of scale, I think, so like, if you look back to the start of when you started to get consistent with the Haunteire stuff and to now, like, how would you sort of measure or define your own personal success? Getting deep here, by the way.
I was like, "Ooh, that's a change from swinging to like deep dark thoughts." No, no. I think success. I think being able to do what you enjoy and like things not feeling like a chore. I think that is success. As in that finding what you love, and if you can eventually earn something from that, even better. But it's not necessarily the initial goal. I think because it comes from a place of genuine love at the start, that yes, I think you can go one or two ways. You can, something you love can become your absolute enemy, but then I don't think you ever fully loved it anyway. Or you love something so much that through thick and thin and any weather that it'll always stick with you and you'll always be able to find a way through and continue that love,
Yeah, love that. That's incredible. Yeah, because that's good that you find that with, movie club community, horror films as well. Like, would you generally be somebody who, if you have something that you really enjoy, that you kind of want to share it with others and kind of want them to see and feel what it is that you do out of something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think ironically, my whole family can feel my love for horror without them actually really caring anything about it, but they can see how happy it makes me, and me sharing little snippets of all that, and just need like random family members that have said stuff to me like, "Oh, I see what you're doing, it's great," and stuff, and just being like known for what you love is a good thing, isn't it? Like people kind of associating you with, and the graveyards, ghosts, still paranormal, and horror movies, and I think it's nice to emanate what you love. Is that a good way to describe it?
Oh, absolutely. I very much be the same. Like, and it's the nicest thing about it is when people kind of understand. Sometimes you get people that don't give a shit, and then that's kind of like, oh, dude, really? Come on.
Yeah.
But obviously, yeah. Oh, there is, But, especially with your family kind of also knowing that about it and being, whether or not involved, but they really, really understand it, and, they love what it is that you're doing because of how it makes you feel. How would you say that social media has changed or affected like your own like personal life in terms of, well, one, having more of a local community than a kind of sort of global community, and two, just kind of being known for something so suddenly after like a number of months.
Yeah, it's funny that obviously John Devlin would joke with me now about um not being able to go into Spar locally because everyone here will know who I am now. But it's not that big, but I can still get my bread in peace. But yeah, I think it's just weird that you can be. I don't know how to describe it, but that strangers can appreciate and love what you do, but not necessarily approach you for it. I think there's different levels of love and people on social media. And I do. Oh no, I'm losing my words there completely.
You're all good. You're all good. Take your time.
This is what happens with a yapper, Andy. I'm just like, what am I saying halfway through my sentence?
You're grand. You're grand. You're just take your time. Like it's 100%. No worries.
Oh my god.
Like I know what you mean. Like you still feel like you can go out and live your life normally, and it's not going to really you're not going to be like rushed by people like, oh my god, you're the graveyard girl, you're the horrible movie girl,
Yeah, like I don't think it's ever gonna. It would never get to that because it's.
Famous last words now.
Well, I think it's because it's under this niche umbrella, but then you're also like Josh was sort of saying to me as well. Like obviously, regards to the horror creators in Ireland, like in Northern Ireland, Belfast in general, there's not very many, and like I think this is when people start coming for me, but well, obviously Ryan Hollinger is a massive. He would be the big name. Regards to like female ones, I don't think there's really anyone that I can name that haven't introduced themselves to me anyway yet. Hi, if you are. But yeah, I think it just shows that like if you've got kind of that weird niche, you can have that kind of elevated level of being known for something because there's not many people doing that thing, and if people do love that thing, like I think there's a bigger horror community than kind of people let on. Like
Yeah.
the cinemas are always busy for horror movies, and I think now that there's someone kind of making content about it, like accessible, like live stream, different kind of ways of doing it, that people are like, oh, that's cool, and like there's a lot of people that have been like, oh, it's a great idea what you're doing and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think maybe being the only one doing it the way I'm doing it is a good thing, but also, yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Content creation isn't generally like it's because it's a hard thing to do, and I think people get so disheartened by if the results just aren't there immediately. Like I mean, this yourself. You have to go through so many different rebrands before ultimately landing. I don't want to say landing on what sticks, but it's sort of landing on what you enjoy the most and what works for you in terms of your interest and your schedule and your sort of availability and watching movies, talking about them to people. Like, I mean, that's great. And people love to sort of tune in. And I mean, I know I'm there like pretty much every Monday too. Do I watch the movies? No, I just talk shit.
Yeah.
But like,
but you don't have to. It's just like, that's the beauty of it. It's like, it's there if people want to do it, but it's also like, there's no pressure. It's just kind of a community thing. It's almost like a check-in thing. It's like having a little therapist appointment on a Monday at 9:30 where you can just like zone out, listen to me for a couple of hours or however long you want, and just like I haven't seen the movies, but sure, we'll listen to whatever she's saying.
you still write down all of your notes, or do you just kind of go off just pure? Well, more recently, do you just go off the pure remembering how much you hated it, and then, or do you still like write them down?
It depends on the movie. Like, I haven't done a lot of notes lately because I'm rewatching Insidious, and then I just like live and breathe and like absorb all that, so I can just kind of regurgitate what I need to say about that. But yeah, a few stinkers recently, which I just am not even. I'm like, no, I am gonna have fun and just give my raw feelings to how that movie made me feel, rather than be like a critic, for example. Like I've never will call myself a critic. I know so many people we'll go back to the trolls again, but they're like, oh, you call yourself a movie critic? Never once have I called myself a movie critic. I'm a movie appreciator, a horror movie enthusiast, and I treat it that way. And that's why it's accessible and encourages more people to get involved and watch more, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of throwing these new titles that they may never have heard of either. And it gives them kind of a bit of a buzz back and go, oh, I should probably start watching more of them. And yeah, a lot of people have brought that up and said that to me as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, I said before, it's like you're broadening the scope for other people who might not have realized what's out there outside of like the sort of bigger franchises. And, and speaking of big franchises again, I know we're kind of almost in a bit of a loop here, but you also came under fire recently for, you know where I'm going with this.
No, don't say it. The A word.
The A word. Your opinion of Alien seems to have really ruffled some feathers, and like, I mean, were you expecting that? Because I actually haven't seen Alien myself, but I know to some people people consider that to be a benchmark of horror movies because of the tension and all. Maybe there's the tension and stuff like that, but like, I'm going to give you the platform here, like the double, triple down if you want, like, you know what I mean? But what was it about it?
Contrary to the belief, I'm not a hater.
No, for sure, for sure.
Not a lover, and I give it 3 stars. Okay.
Which, to be fair, considering the way people have kind of like come at you for saying you didn't really like it that much, 3 stars is generous.
Yeah. So people, because I happened to say that I think it was overhyped, that just people took the wrong end of that and think that I am a disgrace to horror fans, that I shouldn't be talking about horror movies, and who do I think I am? I was like, guys, I just didn't like a slow burn alien movie. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, that just baffles me, to be honest. But it's like, I mean, I'm all for passion and defending things you like, but don't attack people for their opinions. Like, it's like, people say The Shining is one of the best horror movies ever made. I thought it was shite, to be honest. I thought it was boring. Did nothing really happen. You know what? But you see, yeah, you're not attacking me for that. Do you know what I mean? For saying it was shite. Do you know what I mean?
No, and that is a lot of the foundations of the movie club is like, no matter what you say, it's not offending me. I get people coming in and telling me Insidious is the worst franchise, and I'm sitting here like Insidious' biggest fan, but I'm not jumping down their throats because I can objectively, like, if I wasn't, I can see the flaws of some of the movies, but I'm not going like, oh, well, you can't come in here anymore because you don't like Insidious. Like,
yeah, but that's such a good point, because like you're kind of like going back to your point there about you're not a movie critic, you're an enjoyer of movies, right? You can watch a movie, you can think a movie is 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, hashtag not sponsored, but you're just like, well, it's 5 out of 5 for how much you enjoyed it, how much you would go back and rewatch it. It's not, does it have to be perfect? Like, can you honestly name a perfect horror movie that you have watched and that you really enjoy? No holes in it whatsoever. Like, it's just perfect.
Makes sense.
I was gonna say, is it the one that's happens to be creeping over your right shoulder there?
Oops. That wasn't on purpose.
For those who are actually watching the podcast, that you may feel like that was set up. It wasn't. I actually kind of was expecting you to say. I was
just rapping my favorite movie.
That's fair. That is fair. Like, I have to say though, right? See about The Sixth Sense. I enjoyed it as a movie, right? No, it didn't really feel like much was happening in the whole thing. But then, like, when you first watched The Sixth Sense, how did you react to the twist?
Oh, I was mind blown. I think that's why I loved it so much. Because I probably was like maybe 8 or 9 or something watching that. Like, fair. So I was just like, wow, like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And I think it's just pure nostalgia that I am biased to this, like a lot of people would be with Alien. So I can see the flaws too. But I'm not saying if you don't like The Sixth Sense that you can't be a horror movie fan.
Yeah, fucking hell. Like, there's no, like, there's no entry level requirement. Apart from liking horror, there's no entry level requirement to sort of enjoying these types of movies. It's,
Oh yeah.
it's people on the internet are weird. Because, like, the first time I saw, well, I think I say the only time I saw Sixth Sense, and, like, I heard the, I think I probably knew the twist at this point, maybe because it was, like, one of those things that was, it's so widely spoiled on the internet that in like other like TV shows and stuff like that, that you kind of just forget. It's just like, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it was just like, oh, he's dead all along, and I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like not as like wow, because
I was like, oh,
somewhere in the back of your mind was like,
yeah, it was just like, oh, shite one for him, like, you know what I mean? Didn't even realize.
Was going to work and all.
I know, fucking dick. He could have been doing anything except now he was like, that's where he's going to work. Like, no one was
trying to help a child.
I know. But then who was seeing his timesheets? Someone would have, if he was clocking in able to do that, someone should have seen his timesheets. A whole different conversation altogether. There we go, freelance too.
Oh, he also has a ghost blazer and a ghost briefcase that he carries around, so make that make sense.
That's it. I would love to see that man's financial records and see how really dead he actually was. Like, it was cover up, tax fraud.
Yeah, it's all a cover up.
That's the sequel, The Seventh Sense. Tax evasion.
Back to the Fifth Sense, the Sixth is gone.
Just, yeah, pretty. Yeah, the Sixth Sense being his life force.
Yeah, there was no dead people.
Dead inside from his 9 to 5.
Honestly,
we mentioned Insidious before, and we talked about how you've got the screening coming up. That is on the 21st of August. Yes, and you just want to kind of give like a little bit of background into sort of the Insidious side, and then kind of what's if you got anything planned for future screenings, especially with this being your favorite franchise.
Well, so Insidious is one of those franchises that was meant to end, but it didn't. So you can imagine my delight when this movie was announced. But yeah, it's the sixth movie. Insidious started back in 2010. This is going on a while. But Lynn Shay, who plays Elise Rainier, is still going. I think she's 82 or in and around. And she's still acting and she's still in this movie, which is amazing. I'd love to be as happy and healthy as her at 82 years old. But yeah, she's part of the big charm of why I love it. Like, she's the star of the franchise. But I do have a special place for this one. So I wanted to make sure that I did an Insidious screen. I think it's important to me that we put one on for this. And I'll hopefully give a little passionate speech beforehand how much I love it.
Yeah, because I think that's the big difference between the last screening. Because, like, before the last screening, now there's only yourself, myself, and a couple of other people who will know about this. But you were kind of nervous about, okay, how do I introduce this? How do I kind of like? Do you feel like you have that kind of covered now?
Yeah, I feel like I'll have no issues getting up now. Just, I think, yeah, especially because I've done it before. I'll have familiar faces and more people I know. And I kind of know the setting in the cinema, and I know how everything's going to go now. So I don't think I'll be as flustered. But I think maybe if the screens started getting a bit bigger, then it would be running into more nerves. But at the minute, I kind of like the intimate setting, like 50 people max, and that's how I like it. And maybe it will become a little bit of an exclusive thing, like, the first 40 people, or whatever many 48 people that get their tickets.
Yeah.
Then they're the 48 people that gets to go kind of thing. And it would be nice to kind of keep it controlled rather than worry about the bigger screen, the hoodlums that might come in, and the disruption, which we are trying to avoid. And that's why we're doing the screenings, so it's a more positive, friendly environment for all
Yeah, definitely. I think it does create a nicer space for people, because like people will always just say, well, I could just go and see it on any other time. But then if you're around the sort of group that, you know, you're familiar with the setting, then I think that makes it a lot better, a lot more comforting for everybody involved. And do you have any plans for any future ones, or is it very dependent on movies that are kind of coming out in, well, in the particular cinema that you're kind of working with at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm planning to keep up the new release ones. I think Resident Evil is out in September, the new Resident Evil. So I think hopefully we'll do one for that. Um, but the I keep getting asked about Halloween time. I feel like I need to do something. So if there's not a horror movie that's out at that time, I'm kind of looking into options of maybe doing a re-screening like of an anniversary or a really popular classic or something like that. So
Like Alien?
that's something I'm working on. No, it will, spoiler alert, it will not be Alien. So if anyone wants to see it, it will not be Alien.
Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. I just had to throw that in there.
At least that we can all take that off the list on the mystery reveal when I'm doing all the, like, you know, really high profile. Oh, I wonder what it could be. Not Alien.
Yeah. Although I can definitely see there potentially being like sort of, you know, if you get big and famous doing this, cancellation scandal. Haunteire does not like Alien.
Yeah, it's gonna ramp up.
That's
the
it.
more I talk about it.
People will, you know, people will remember that first video where you said Alien was overrated.
Yeah.
The other way people like dig back like 10 years into people's tweets.
Yeah,
Be,
get TikTok cancelled from my like video of me just naming movies.
Exactly. Erin, it's been a pleasure having you on Behind the Camera. Thank you so much for taking the time having this conversation. It's been a lot of fun. Just like to give you the floor to let the listeners know, where can we find you? Where can we find Horror-ble Monday Movie Club? How can we join? Is it swinging? The floor is yours.
Everything. It's anything you want and more. Well, thank you for having me, Andy. I am on TikTok and Instagram mainly at Haunteire, so it's Haunteire or Haunteira if you want to say it properly. I never do. It's also Monday nights for the movie club, so I go live Mondays at 9. I go live on Mondays at 9:30 p.m. and I set a weekly watch list. I put up a video of the watch list, and there is a TikTok group chat you can join as well, where all the wee messages get put in and all the updates too.
Yeah, amazing stuff. So yeah, if you're watching, listening, make sure you give Erin a follow on all platforms. Join the movie club if you like horror movies. Even if you don't like horror movies, the crack's good. Good vibe, good people. And yeah, it is an all-around good time. But once again, Erin, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Bye.
And there you have it for episode 127 of Behind the Camera. Huge thank you to Haunteire for being today's guest. If you like what you heard and would like to be a part of Erin's Horror-ble Monday Movie Club, be sure to check out her TikTok and Instagram, links in the description. And of course, if you'd like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, check out my link tree in the description for all socials and for my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. Thank you for listening, for all the support, and for being part of the journey. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.